Welcome, traveller, welcome, student, welcome, my friend. Today we're going to speak about Israel, Sky News, racism, and you. Zionism, me, racism, and TV. First and foremost, I would like to just have a little message of what the flip is going on. It feels like we live in a different. It feels like I'm living in the wrong timeline. The wrong timeline. Like, isn't it weird how the West and democracy and goodness won World War II, but despite that, it was like the Nazis never lost, because in the UK at the moment we're scapegoating refugees. Okay, we're blaming people who are coming here for help and to evade torment and death. We're treating them like they are the problem, like they are every single problem that we have is down to them, and that's not. Was it me, or am I the only one who heard that COVID was the biggest transfer of wealth in history? Have you noticed in your local area, in your city, in your town, a lot of redevelopment? Nothing looks the same anymore. Isn't that strange? I thought a lot of people didn't do very well out of COVID, or maybe some did. Was it the migrants? Was it the refugees? No. Millionaires became billionaires, and those billionaires who run media empires tell you, who exist in between complete poverty and complete billionaire status, you know. And our poverty in the West doesn't compare to the poverty of the third world. It doesn't even touch it. It doesn't even resemble it. One of my favourite comedians, Doug Stanhope, he says, you know, our poverty is like, you know, we're just kind of embarrassed by it, you know what I mean? It's like, we're not going from meal to meal, we're not starving, you know, we just got a flip phone, we're just embarrassed to break it out in public, or we stream TVs on some, illegal streaming website, you know, but we ain't really hard up, you know what I mean? We're just, you know, there's first world problems kind of scenario, you know? So we need to kind of have a bit of perspective. Gaza, what's happening in Gaza? I mean, people go on about we're hard up in the UK and that's why we have to have a right to be angry at the migrants. Particularly the same news that tells us to be angry is telling us that in the autumn, soon, things are going to get a lot harder. Oh yeah, it's going to get a lot harder for us, by the way. Oh, and by the way, there's some people coming into the country. Today they've come in, 40 people have come in, X amount of boats have come in, and it's going to be harder. And there aren't no places in schools, and the roads are too busy, and there aren't enough places in doctors, and there are loads of migrants coming over. What's the problem? You know, the news, it creates this environment of information, and we wake up and think, time to engage with the world. So we flick on the news, and the news says, this autumn it's going to get a lot worse. Oh, and by the way, people are coming into our countries. Oh, and by the way, some of them raped your women. And how do you feel about that? Comments in the comment section, please. You know, or they don't even say how you feel about it. They just leave it open. Why are all the doctors' places full? Why are the streets full? Why are there no social housing? You know. And in the next story, migrants. Relax. People of Earth, we need to evolve out from centralised media, because they're going to make us do the whole World War II thing all over again. You want to do that? We don't have the living memory of that. I've met veterans of the war, of World War II. This guy was 90, I don't know if he's 99, but he was well in his 90s, and he was among a group of Western Allied soldiers who went around capturing and executing Nazi prisoners, Nazi war criminals, you know? And they weren't meant to execute them, but they did. And this guy said, guns are the worst thing to happen to humanity. If only we could get rid of guns, we'd be all sorted. This guy was traumatized in a big way. War will traumatize you in a big way. We're not meant for war. Our brains cannot cope with it. There's loads of things to suggest this is the case. For example, soldiers that were engaged in combat during the Falklands War, more soldiers committed suicide as a result of the things that they had to do than were killed in the conflict, you know. War is not good for us. We can't do it, you know. At the moment, Israeli soldiers are committing suicide, and that's because they're being told to do things that on a moral level, on a level of universal cosmic justice, they don't feel right at the end of the day. Holy Land, whatever, they don't feel right, and they've taken their own life because of that. So what use is a holy world, a holy place, if it's full of ghosts, full of blood? If you're living in the house of someone who you've conquered, I wouldn't be able to sleep. I would sooner give my house and be homeless than take the house of someone that was murdered. Anyhow, that was a bit heavy. And it's a really heavy subject, and it really grabs everybody. The reason why it grabs you is because we're so powerless, right? It affects us on such a level. I remember talking to people 20 years ago about this, and they said, like, what can we do? I mean, almost what's the point in saying this, because we can't do anything, you know? And that's kind of the point of all of their messaging, is to kind of, and the system the way it is to disempower us to the point that we are just oppressed, you know, completely ineffective as entities of change, you know? We are not entities of change. We vote for someone to be the entity of change, to do it for 4 years, you know? It doesn't make much sense, and it doesn't work for us. I call it racism politics now because it is that popular racism can always get votes. Okay, there's always a huge amount of people that cannot look inwardly but have self-hatred. If you can't look inwardly and you have self-hatred, what happens? You hate outwardly. Oh, I can't look inwardly. No, it's them. Oh, and another thing, everyone needs to have someone lower than them. This can really shape your life, how you treat those that you do not have to treat well. Okay? The Israelis don't have to treat the Gazans particularly well, and thus Palestine hasn't had anaesthetic in years. Okay? Next time you go to the dentist, think of what it would be like without anaesthetic, or childbirth, or breaking your leg, or having surgery. They don't have anaesthetic because the Israelis want them to suffer. And that's horrible. And I have a real problem with that racist sort of sentiment that, you know, we are superior and there are those who are so absolutely inferior that we can absolutely just do what we want. Because we can. Because we're allowed. And here's where I need your help. I need the help of the Jewish people. I need the help of all people on earth. There are moderates in every single faith, and there are extremists in every faith. And extremists have gotten to the top of Israel, right? And the Israeli people, you know, there are many, many, many people who cannot live with what they're seeing. There are many people who are Jewish who cannot live with what they're seeing, you know? It's despicable. So I call upon the moderates of every faith for us to unite in a movement of peace, okay? No matter what we believe, if it's Judaism, Islam, Buddhism, Christianity, Sikhism, Hinduism, you name it. Doesn't matter what we believe, if we, the moderates, separate ourselves from the extremists, from the fanatics, right? If we can renounce superiority, if we can renounce our way is the only way, my people is the only people, I am better than everyone else, if we can find a way to renounce all that, we will come together and we will forge our own thing, and we will show everyone the glory and benefit and beauty of that. Heaven on earth. It requires you and me. I really need your help. We can't do it without your help. I can't do it without your help. You know? So here we are, we're in it. You know? And I love it. And the project begins, you know? So, allow me to look at my notes because I'm having so much fun and I need to speak more. So, secondary school, okay? Think back to that time. Think back to one person who did something stupid, something bad, whatever. Let's say there was a boy who was going to your school, let's say a school of 1,000, right? 1,000 pupils. And one boy, he had a girlfriend and he punched her. And that's a big thing. But imagine if every single person in your school is viewed as a woman beater, right? As viewed as someone who can mercilessly, pugilistically punish and mistreat someone weak and vulnerable. And then the whole world decided to say, your entire school is like that. You're like that. You're like that because you went to the school. That's what people that go to that school is like, you woman beater. It's not very just. It's not at all just to have that sentiment, right? Because if you do something, it doesn't represent what anyone else does, okay? Yet Israel is collectively punishing Gaza, all right? Every single woman and child is getting slaughtered because of the actions of not even 1% of people, you know? And that sentiment that Israel is doing, the collective punishment, has come to this country, okay? And our people are collectively punishing refugees for the actions of one or two people, right? 100,000 people, 106,000 people are being judged for like the actions of two, let's say 10 people, right? Because there's probably a few cases. 10 people, 100,000 people. That's 1 in 1,000, right? I'm really bad at maths, so answers in the comment section if I got that wrong to help me work out my maths. But the point of the matter is, our people are punishing 106,000 refugees who are desperate for refuge because of the actions of 10 people. All right, that's not right, and it's racist, and it's all because people need to point the finger outwardly, because they hate themselves inwardly. They're not happy with themselves inwardly, and it's much easier to suggest that the world needs to change rather than we. But there's no benefit in that. Believe me, the joy of the universe, the connection to the God, to the universe, and to yourself, the true self, the one that you've always dreamt of being, it comes when we're able to admit our mistakes and admit who we are. We're resisting being who we are because we have to move through that to get there. We can't deny who we are, we have to accept who we are, you know? I love who I am. It took me 30, nearly 40 years to love who I am. I hated who I am. I was basically encouraged to hate who I am. In the 90s, as a man, you were told that if you took care of yourself, you were a poser. Well, I grew up with, you know, surrounded by 3 women, and I felt like I couldn't be good looking, I couldn't dress well, I couldn't have hair like this, you know. I had dreadlocks for more than a decade because that's what I felt I deserved, and, you know, dress was cool as heck. However, I just felt like I deserved to be on the lowest of low rungs, and that's where I shall always, in a sense, be. I'll never be higher than anyone, ever. But at the same time, I don't need to think of myself as low or lowly. I'm trying to think how I got onto this train of thought. I've gone off on a tangent a little bit, but that's cool. Self-love. Heck, if all those soldiers needed to flip and kill people could love themselves enough, they wouldn't need to, man. With enough love, you don't need to kill people. With enough love, you don't need to say they're subhuman. Jewish people, I need you. I'm a Gentile, according to, a lot of what people like to believe and get into, and I don't see any sense in kind of defining people in terms of naturally by birthright holy or unholy by birthright or anything by birthright, really, except for holy. We are all divine, all of us. But we have to grow it. We have to grow our divinity. It has to be cultivated. We have to cultivate our divinity. Otherwise we cultivate something much more animalistic. What are the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, who were defending themselves against the Palestinian right for self-independence, and they're protecting themselves against farmers, out there in the sticks where the settlers are attacking them and taking their land and thieving their land, I think it's all a funny trick of the Creator to say, you're the best people, and you're the best people, and here's your land, and here's your land, and it's all the same place, and it's all the same people. Perhaps the trick of peace on earth is that we all have to reject that one thing that the Creator said, your way is the only one way, your people is the only one people. Because it said it to every single person on earth. So we've been tricked. It's a grand trick. It's an amazing thing. That's my revelation for you. And in terms of revelations, we are in the time of great revelation. I say this because Netanyahu really has played his cards openly now. For decades people have been saying, and I have been saying, that, well, there are many things that Israel have been doing that have been very, very, very criminally inhuman. They've been indiscriminately bombing people for absolutely decades. And for example, if they want to take one person out, they'll bomb with an airstrike a tower block at the bottom. At the bottom of a tower block, they'll aim 2,000-pound bombs, and then they'll blow the entire thing to kingdom come. The entire tower block will go because they were after one person. They'll kill hundreds of people and say, well, they were human shields because Hamas had a weapons factory underneath that we were targeting. No, they've been saying that again and again. If you believe that every hospital is a Hamas thing, every journalistic outfit is a Hamas-run outfit, every school, university, every medical place, everything that's infrastructure, everything that's to help the people, and critical infrastructure isn't meant to be targeted in war. It's a war crime. But Israel's open about that now. It's open about that now, and it's also open about it is open about paying fighters to fight for Israel. And that suggests that they've been paying Hamas and funding Hamas and supporting Hamas, creating Hamas, to create this situation. You give them everything you need, you give them all the motive they need, you let them go crazy, Bada bing, bada boom, you've got an enemy, Revelation, I meant to say the great reveal. This is the time of the great reveal. So, Netanyahu and Israel, they're really out with what they're doing. I mean, they believe that we can't stop them and no one's going to stop them, so they can say finally and do finally whatever they want. So take heed, okay? Zionists are being dreadfully racist. They're being fundamentalist, archaic and fanatical in the same way that they suggest that only exists in Islam. And I find that interesting. So I'm going to move on to my next subject, which is Zionism, Sky News. I think it's rather funny. Every time Israel has a big strike, a big massacre, look at Sky News. They're telling you about all the migrants that are coming in, and we're flooded with migrants. And look at them. Look, don't they look a bit Islamic, or a bit a bit, a bit brown-skinned, man? They're different to you, and they're coming over, and they look rather similar to the people that we're reporting on in the Palestine situation. Connection. Your enemy, my enemy. There's something rather interesting about Israel and Zionism. They pay our racist groups, okay, in order to conduct their activities. For example, the EDF and Tommy Robinson, Stephen Lennon Yaxley, whatever his name is. Why is Israel paying our hate groups? It's because Israel wants their enemies to become your enemies, okay? And I've noticed this all my life. Hollywood and the news and everything has done everything in its power to suggest that whenever you see anything Islamic, you will connect in your mind to terror, the word terrorism. And that is ironic, because Israel and the way it conducts its militarism is through terrorism, okay? For a start, the Israeli military emerged from terror groups called Irgun and Stern. They were militia groups who went round committing massacres on the Palestinian people. The Palestinian people had no army, and still do not have no official army, okay? Let's look into terrorist acts that Israel commit. I mean, we're seeing snipers shoot kids. We're seeing the pager bombing. If that's not terrorism, I don't know what it is. Loads of kids died in that. But that's seemingly nothing anybody wants to care about. Loads of civilians got injured or killed. And these were bombs. It was a bombing. However, President Trump got a golden pager. How sickening is that? How sickening is that? It would be like Saddam, it would be like, I don't know. It would be like a crazy Islamic war, fighting madman like Bin Laden or Ayman Zawahiri or whatever his name is, or the Hook guy, or Hamza. It would be like them giving, like Saudi Arabia giving them a golden Twin Towers for blowing up the Twin Towers or something, or whatever. You know what I mean? It's just sickening. It's just sickening. A terrorist act was glamorized, glorified, and even enshrined in a gift of gold to the President of the United States. It's sickening beyond all belief. A president who got to power through racism. This is the era of racism, the resurgence of racism. Peculiar how the head of fascistic, nationalistic, ethno-nationalism has reared its head not 100 years later after World War II and the Nazis, and it's just come, despite conquering the Nazis, the UK is becoming racist and nationalistic and is blaming refugees for its problems at home. So is America, and so is Israel, who were, if you want to think about it this way, you can consider them the chief victims of World War II. They certainly consider themselves, my friends, Jewish people. It was horrible. What happened to you guys? Please don't do it to the next guys. It's rather silly. But I'm talking to a moderate, so I'm not trying to hang on you everything the state of Israel's done, okay? You get enough grief by being called a self-hating Jew, and I appreciate what you do that lands you in that situation, and I'm not going to give you a hard time on the other side of, you are not the state of Israel, neither am I. Just in case you needed that clarified. It's a great reveal, and Netanyahu, the Zionists, they need to be stopped, and here's the issue with Zionism. It's got nothing to do with Judaism. Why is it that the Jewish orthodoxy doesn't recognise Zionism? It's because Zionism is an absolute bastardisation of the faith and also the prophecy that the Messiah will come. The state of Israel will be when the Messiah comes, right? Well, there's no Messiah just yet. And so the state of Israel cannot be. So, but what they're doing is they're just skipping that step and saying, okay, let's just have a state of Israel, Diaspora come because it's ready now. We're not going to wait for the Messiah thing to happen. We're bored of waiting. We need our own thing. We're going to take it by force. What a shame. And there's an issue with Zionism, and it is this. It conflates Judaism, Israelis, and politics, right? Into one thing. If you've got a problem with the politics of Zionism, you've got a problem with the people of Israel, and you've got a problem with Judaism, okay? And then you've got a problem on your hands. Because a Zionist would tell me that for saying anything bad about Zionism, I may as well be saying stuff bad about Judaism. I may as well be attacking Jews. I may as well be trying to kill Jews, kill every Jew, and destroy Judaism as a faith and a life and what it is. I was only saying that they shouldn't bomb the blimmin' children every second of every day, sorry. Now you're saying I am racist and that I've got a problem with Jews. No, I don't. I have a real problem with racism, and I have a real problem with superiority, and that's it. And if we can put aside superiority and love one another, I think we'd be a lot better off. We'd be a lot happier than shooting each other, bombing each other. We'd be a lot happier. You're happier when you love people. Test the theories, right? If Islamic people are so bad, talk to them. Man, the people that I've talked to are so calm, so cool, so keen to talk, so nice, warm, welcoming, open people. They have their own struggles, they're in life. They're about the work like I am. They're about goodness, being good. Nobody's perfect. And if you're going to judge an entire people, you're going to come up... Intermission. If you're going to judge an entire people, there's going to be some people who don't, make the grade. There's always a minority. There's always some people that are going to fuck it up for everyone else, right? There are Muslims who have fucked it up for other Muslims. There are Jews who have fucked it up for other Jews. There are Christians who have fucked it up for all the Christians, Seriously, man. We're all fucking it up for each other, man. Let's get it together. And the only way we're going to do that, I think, is if we throw away the television straight up and social media, man. Okay, minimum, all right? It is programming us. What you program into programs you, Seriously. Okay, we need to literally disband centralised media because it's going to lead us into World War III again. You want that? A lot of people do, and I wasn't very happy with myself even a couple of months ago, and I wanted it. The great cleansing. Let's just have a big war, have a big nuke war, and whatever's left, fantastic. Actually, if we have a nuclear war, it's not going to be good for us. It's not necessarily going to be kind of like an interesting post-apocalyptic place. Let's consider that all of the richest people have embedded themselves in such sort of survival mechanism or survival architecture that probably it'll be inhabited by Jeff Bezos and people like that, man. And I have love for everyone, and everyone has the capacity to find divinity and reject the physical. However, don't pray for a nuclear war, and don't pray for war, and don't think that it's going to help us. I don't think it's going to help us. We really don't want to go into all of that again. What I'm doing here and what you've got to do is just everything that we can to stop it, to prevent it, and we can move on. But we can't if we don't do those things. The blessed rain has come. It's really setting in, and might be a opportunity for me to move on or think about what I'm doing next. So, peace.